Hello, Texas 4-H. My name is Molly Keck, and I am with the Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service and the Department of Entomology. I am also one of the authors on the 4-H Entomology Guidelines. These videos were developed to help you better understand what you need to know for the Entomology Identification Contest. Remember, for each specimen, you need to know their common name, what order they're found in, what their life cycle is, what type of mouthparts they have, their host or location or where they are found, and their significance. Are they a pest, beneficial, inconsequential, or variable? This study video is covering the other two suborders of the order Hemiptera. If you remember, Hemiptera is made up of three suborders. We've already covered the order Heteroptera, which are the true bugs. And now we're going to be looking at Auchenorrhyncha and Sternorrhyncha. If you are a junior, you're not going to be responsible for differentiating Hemiptera into Auchenorrhyncha or Sternorrhyncha. But if you are an intermediate, you may be. And if you're a senior, you certainly will be. You definitely will be if you are participating in the state contest. First, let's look at the suborder Auchenorrhyncha. These are cicadas, spittlebugs, leafhoppers, treehoppers, and planthoppers. All of these, except for cicadas, are considered pests. They all have piercing and sucking mouthparts, and they all have a gradual or parametabolous life cycle. Juniors, intermediates, and seniors all need to know cicadas. Cicadas are those insects that are found up in trees. They make all that loud noise during the summer months, and they are considered inconsequential. They are a summer insect. Mistakenly, we call them locusts, and they don't really cause any damage to plants. The immatures in Texas, the adults will lay their eggs in the bark of a tree or maybe even in the soil. The eggs hatch and they turn into nymphs. The nymphs live in the ground for the majority of the year and suck sap from trees. But this actually doesn't cause any damage that's super noticeable to the trees. The adults might cause some damage to tree bark when they lay eggs, but they really are considered inconsequential, not really causing damage, and neither are they beneficial. Leafhoppers also need to be known by Hemiptera. When I look at all of the specimens in this suborder Auchenorrhyncha, I notice that they kind of have a pointy head. So they kind of have an A, like an A is shaped almost, a wide A shape to their head. And I remember that if I see that kind of pointy nose, then I know that they're in Auchenorrhyncha. So the A for Auchenorrhyncha, pointy nose, A-shaped head. The other thing is that this group has fully membranous wings. So instead of having half hard and half membranous, they're fully membranous, but they still produce this triangle that you see. So a triangle plus a pointy nose is Auchenorrhyncha. And so you can see leafhoppers have this look, just like the cicadas did. We can't really see it from above, but they have the fully membranous wings and they kind of have a pointy nose to them. Leafhoppers are small insects. They have that pointed head. The body is shaped like a wedge, kind of like the wedges that you put underneath doors to stop the doors from moving. They are called leaf hoppers, so they're able to jump, and they are pests sucking the juices of plants. The location or host where they are found is grasses and plants. They're very variable in what they feed on. Seniors only need to know plant hoppers. Plant hoppers have an interesting wing. It's straight across the back, but then they kind of loop down below. And all the plant hoppers have this look with that looping wing. These are pests. The host is various plants. So just plants in general for the plant hoppers would be the host or location, because again, they're a very diverse group and there's a lot of different species. Spittlebugs are also an insect that needs to be known in Auchenorrhyncha by the seniors only. These are considered pests for the contest because they can be found on alfalfa, which is a crop, causing damage to that. The nymphs are very interesting because a way that they will defend themselves is they will form spittle around their bodies, like you see in that right-hand picture, to protect themselves. And, a predator doesn't really want to go after something that's looking like spit. But the adults are what you need to be aware of to be able to identify. And the two-striped spittlebug that you see on the left-hand picture is the one that is the most common in Texas. Tree hoppers are the final Auchenorrhyncha that you need to know for seniors only. So plant hoppers had the bottom of their wing that looked interesting. Tree hoppers have the top of their wings that look very interesting. So they have humped backs. They might have warts or spines on them. They are meant to appear to be twigs or spines or something like that on a plant. So this is an adaptation that they have. The host for these are trees. They are considered a pest. They will feed on the base of small plants. They damage the stems, may girdle the stems, which means that they kind of do damage all the way around until that stem is so weak. So tree hoppers have funny tops and are pests found in trees. The next suborder that we are going to look at in Hemiptera is Sternorrhyncha. Sternorrhyncha are those things that are sessile. They are soft-bodied. They are still. So S was still, sessile, soft, smushy type things. So aphids, psyllids, scales, and whiteflies. Aphids need to be known by everyone. Aphids have a typical look. These are a bunch of aphids. Aphids are very soft-bodied, very small insects that are generally found on the underside of leaves. If you're a senior or an intermediate, I would certainly know that this term cornicle are what these little knobs are, tubercles, that are found at the end of the abdomen of all aphids. Some aphids can produce without mating, and they will do that a lot of times when there's not a lot of them on the plant or they can't find a male. They'll just make identical clones of themselves. These are a pest. They will suck the juices from plants, producing something called honeydew, and honeydew produces something called sooty mold. And sooty mold is a blackish substance that builds up on the leaves and aesthetically is not very pleasing. These can sometimes also be called plant lice, but if you see the cornicles on a soft, small insect, you are looking at an aphid. The host for aphids is going to be any plant because there's a lot of species and it's going to range from flowers to trees, even grasses, to agricultural crops. This is an image of a bunch of aphids on the underside of a leaf, and one of the things that will happen with aphids is that ants will tend to the aphids, so they help take care of the aphids. They protect the aphids, and in return, they get to drink that sweet honeydew that they're peeing out. Intermediates and seniors also need to know a specific type of aphid called a green bug. These have the tips of their toes, their antenna, and the tips of their cornicles are black. So if you see an aphid, but it's got black on the tips of toes and cornicles and antenna, it's a green bug. Don't call it an aphid. This specific type of aphid is a pest that is found on small grains. They have piercing and sucking mouthparts. All of the hemipterans have piercing and sucking mouthparts. Intermediates and seniors also need to know psyllids. Psyllids have a lot of different looks. They look like that one on top, which is kind of hard looking, looks like a twig or a spine coming off of a plant. The one below is a tomato or potato psyllid, and those almost look like gnats in a way. So they have a variety of different looks. I would be familiar with both of these different looks. The host for these is potato, specifically because of the potato psyllid. They're also called jumping plant lice a lot of times because they are able to hop, much like the leafhoppers. And the big issue with them, and the main reason why they are a pest, in addition to feeding on the juices of the plant, is that they're able to transmit disease, vector diseases from plant to plant. So like a mosquito transmits diseases from person to person or animal to animal, these will transmit diseases from plants. Intermediates and seniors also need to know armored scales. Armored scales are hard-bodied scales. They can look like oysters. They can look like balls on the edges of the, on those stems, or they can look kind of like bird poop, like in that top picture. So they hide their body underneath this hard wax. So there's actually a little insect that's underneath there, and their shape is going to vary by the different species. Males are winged, and they do have legs and antenna, and they'll fly around and mate with the females. And these are going to be found on trees and woody plants, trees and shrubs. They are a major pest, and oftentimes when they're found on a tree or woody shrub, armored scales will kill that plant if they're not well taken care of. One reason why armored scales will get on plants is when they're not getting enough water and they're drought stressed, or you have an irrigation problem in your home. Intermediates and seniors also need to know soft scales. Soft scales are not as hard and bulbous as the armored scales are. Their host is different. They're mainly found on ornamental type trees, so like a crepe myrtle, something that we plant for the look and the flowering, not really a woody, hardy tree. They're definitely a pest. Females and males, males are wingless or winged. Females can have reduced wings and reduced antenna. There is an insect underneath that little scale. They're just hiding. They have a smoother, harder, smooth but also hard exoskeleton covered in wax, so they're protected from predators and very hard to manage at times. Pecan Phyllorexa needs to be known only by seniors. This is a pest in pecans. It's an aphid-like looking insect in the order Hemiptera, suborder Sternorrhyncha, that causes these galls. And so you'll need to identify, if you see a picture of a gall here, it's formed by the pecan Phyllorexa. So they make galls on the pecan leaves and the stems, and that can reduce the overall vigor of pecans and prevent them from producing as much as you would want them to. And the final specimen in the suborder Sternorrhyncha only needs to be known by seniors are the whiteflies. Whiteflies are very, very small flies, fly-like looking hemipterans, solid white all over their body except for their little dark eyes. They are considered a pest, and they feed on a variety of different plants and crops. The host for this would be vegetables and cotton. They have a simple metamorphosis or a gradual metamorphosis. But the last nymph is a little bit more like a pupa. So they're kind of in between a complete and an incomplete, or a complete and a gradual metamorphosis. For more information, study guide materials, and more, please visit the Texas A&M Entomology Department Extension website. Visit entomology.tamu.edu/extension. Scroll down and click on 4-H and Youth Programs.